Okay, so now that I have the bed heat, the 12 volt from the power supply, the bed heat, and the hot end cartridge, heater cartridge wire connected, I kind of want to sort out the rest of these wires. So before I go any further, I got this really cool LED clamp-on light from Amazon. I put a link in the previous video to it. I'm going to put a link in this one. If you guys do a bunch of this type of stuff, this light really seems nice. I've only had it for a few days now, but it's got a great big strong metal clamp on one end. Then it's got about a foot-long bendable stalk with about a 8 or 9 inch long LED strip light in it, and it's pretty cool. It does high and low, and off, and it also does warm white and cold white. And it works good. It's really cool. So anyway, with that being said, I got some more light on the subject now, and I'm trying to sort these wires out. So my wife gave me some little sticky things. Here they are. Some little sticky things that you can identify, things with. So I have identified my X, Y, and Z stepper motor cables and limit switches, and I don't have the Z limit switch in there because I'm not even using the Z limit switch because of the BLTouch. Now also, I did get, I don't know if I mentioned it, also with the board I bought, I got 5 TMC 2209 stepper drivers. Now these drivers purport to support sensorless homing. And what sensorless homing does, it recognizes when the motor stalls and it stops, and that's your home position. And my first thought was to use that, but I'm reading up on it, and some people seem to have a lot of trouble getting it to work, others don't. But for now, I'm going to go with the limit switches because I don't want to bite off more than I can chew right off the bat. So I've got X, Y, and Z limit switch and drivers, stepper driver motors, cabling identified and out of the way. And these down here are my thermistors, and they are actually marked from the factory. One it says 3D Touch on it. So I got 3D Touch, I have E1, and well, two of them say 3D Touch on it. 3D Touch, 3D Touch, and then the other two say E1 and E0, and I'm guessing those are the filament out sensors. So everything else is in these two plugs. Now it's interesting to note that this plug here has 4 wires in it, and it's marked as E1, and these are color-coded orange, black, green, and blue, and that is the same color as the Extruder stepper motors. So, and there is 2 of those, of course, since this is a dual filament printer. So I have those same 4 color wires over here in this plug, and also I have a wire that was, I noted earlier in one of my other videos, it says E0 on it, but one of those goes to the cartridge heater, and the other one comes over into the orange into here, and I'm not exactly sure what that does yet. But before I go any further, let's make sure that that these 4 wires, these 8 wires, 4 here and 4 here, are the actual stepper drivers for the 2 extruders. So I've got my multimeter out. I'm going to turn it to volt ohms, and I'm going to switch it to continuity, and let's check it to make sure that it is working. It is working, and I'm going to have to go around the back here, and I'm not going to do well, maybe I should do every one just in case. Let's start with E1, and this is going to be the orange one here. So I am going to touch it to there, and E1 is this one over here. Okay, that is that one. This next one is the black, and I'm going to hold that there, and going over to the black on E1 back here, and we got that. And this one is the I think that's green, so let's test green over here. Yep. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the last one, the orange one, but since we're doing this, let's go ahead and make sure we get them all tested. Just got to hold that in my hand so my fingers hold it like that, and then back here to the orange, and yay. Okay, so this is E1 stepper. So I'm going to assume that these identical color-coded wires over here are E0, but let's make sure. That's green. And nope, I got nothing. Am I not on it? Green. Let me make sure I was on it. Kind of awkward there. Yep, green there. And this one, I think, is the black. Is that black or blue? We'll find out. That is the blue one. And we're going to flip it over. And I have orange here. Nope, not getting anything. Try again. Make sure I'm on it. Orange. You really going to be that troublesome? There we go. I think I'm down on it now. Nope. Nope, getting nothing. Why not? Let's try the black one. How interesting, huh? Nope, I'm getting nothing from these two. Nothing from these outer two wires. Let's try this end of it, just to be sure. Just to make sure I was making contact. Boy, that is awkward to hold that on there. Jeez, come on. That is the orange one in this upper corner. I just have to figure out a way to hold it so that it stays on it. Gee, the other one was so easy. This one's really fighting. But that seems to be how it often goes, isn't it? Everything goes well until some point, then at that point, everything starts to fight. It's just not letting me do that. Let's try that. There we go. There we go. I'm wrong. I just wasn't making a connection on the back for some reason, and then the other is the black one. And we'll try that like that. Yes, okay. Alrighty then. So, these four wires are E1 stepper driver for the extruder, and these four identical colored wires here are for E0 stepper extruder. So I'm going to get those cut and marked, and I'm going to put a 4-wire connector on them like I showed you I did the 2 wires earlier. Okay, so trying to figure out the way these stepper motors are wired for the extruders. I've looked up the SKR board, and each one of these stepper driver plugs has 4 pins, and each stepper driver has 2 coils, plus and minus for each coil, and they're typically called A plus A minus for the first coil and B plus B minus for the second coil, or 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, which is what BigTreeTech calls them on the board. So what I believe I have is coil number 1 is red positive, blue negative, and coil number 2 is green positive and black negative. And there's kind of a way we can check that. And I swear if you look this stuff on the internet, you'll find 10 wiring diagrams, and all 10 will be different. But there's a way we can kind of check our work to see if that's right. And I have got the 4 wires here. I know they're hard to see, but I want the meter in it, and we should get an ohm reading if we're on 2 wires that are the same coil. Like blue and red should be 1A, so I'm going to try and touch my meter to them, and I'm having trouble keeping the meter on it. But I'm definitely getting a reading. Now, my black and my green should also give me a reading. And you got to be careful not to touch the probes on the metal, because your fingers will give it a reading at this point. But I'm definitely getting a reading across these two pairs. Now if I go to two that are each on a different pair, God, my hands are shaking, too much coffee today, I will not get a reading at all. So I think I'm right here. I think my little sketch here is correct, and I'm going with it because I'm not figuring out anything that makes any more sense than this. Okay, so here is E1 plug ready to go, and what I hope is correct. And based on, and you got to remember, you got to look at it, the back of the plug, and make sure you've got the correct rotation on it. And what I've got is black, blue, red, and green. Black, blue, red, and green. God, those colors are hard to see sometimes after you've been looking at them for so long. The green, the blue and the black, and the green and the blue start to mix together, but yeah, that's correct. So that's E0, and that I believe is correct. I did not make them any longer, so I'm hoping. And E0 is all the way, or E1, I believe, is the farthest one. Is that correct? Let me check real quick. Yes, E1 is the furthest one to the right. So that plug's going to go all the way down here. So I may wind up having to split that back a little bit. I hope not, but we'll see. Okay, for starters, I want to thank some of you for the comments to my previous video. For those of you that are worried that there aren't going to be enough room for these wires that run down, let me get that out from under there, that run down over here when this is in place, these same channels that you see along the top in this extrusion are on the side, and once put in place, they tuck neatly into those channels. So while I will have to unbolt the housing to get it out of there if I want to work on those wirings, once it's in place, it's fine. So I have the two steppers wired for the extruder, or I should say I have the ends put on them, and I believe that my schematic was correct. I have double checked it. I have continuity at each end, so I have put the terminals on correctly. The only thing now that I don't know what are these last 5 wires coming down from the hot end. Now I have 3 fans and a thermistor up there. Now note that 2 of the fans are wired together and trigger on and off at the same time. They're the hot end cooling fans, and then there is the part cooling fan, which should be separate. Now, these 2 wires, the orange and the white, I believe they are the thermistor, and I know how to check that. I should be able to, and to make my life a little easier, I'm going to use a couple paper clips, and I'm just going to jam them down in here so that I can not have to fiddle around too much getting my meter leads hooked to it. I suppose I could go out in the garage and get the meter leads with the alligator clips on it, but you know what, that seems like a drastic maneuver just to do this. So we're going to try this, and let's see what we got. I am back on ohms, and I have to be careful not to touch it. If I check these, I should have a steady ohm reading. You know what, let's just kind of hook them in there and see if we can't just get them to stay. I know that's asking a lot, but maybe I can. Let's put this one in this way too. Now the black one came out. It's always something. Okay, there we go. I have 68.5 kilo ohms steadily coming down from there. So if I take my little heat gun, this thing right here, and I apply heat to the hot end, over here, sorry it's off camera, this should change, and it should change pretty quickly. Let's try it. And there it goes. We are dropping fast. We are down from 65 to 40 and dropping. And when I take my heat gun off of it, that should stop going down and start going back up. losing continuity to it. There it is again. So I believe I'm correct. I believe those 2 wires are the hot end thermistor. That leaves the other 3 wires to be the fan wires. And why 3? I don't know. I suspect it was getting hot from somewhere else, but I think I'm going to drag a like 5 volt or a 12 volt battery over here, and I will just use that to test those wires. Okay, I believe I have this wired correctly now, and there were some trials and tribulations, and I want to go over them with you, and I am going to try and separate out what is specific to the A10M and what might apply to any printer you try and do this upgrade on. So, first things first, I goofed up. I knew I had to do it, and I forgot. There are jumpers underneath the stepper drivers, and those jumpers have to be set depending on what stepper driver you're using, and you have to do it for each one. I had forgotten and left them in their default position, and that sent me off on about a 2-hour wild goose chase yesterday. So, and I was swapping wires around, and it was anyway. Once I had that Homer Simpson moment, and realized I had to set those jumpers, everything started to work right on me again. But then I ran into another problem, and that is once I set the jumpers correctly, X didn't work. And it took me another hour of scratching my head and thinking before I got smart enough to try swapping the stepper drivers out. And I realized I had a bad stepper driver, and no matter what position I put that in, that motor will not run no matter what. So, fortunately, I bought this board and these steppers from Amazon because Chinese retailers were all out of stock. So I contacted them, and they responded to me within an hour or so, and they're going to send me a replacement stepper driver. Now, when I first put this together, unknowingly I had put the bad one into the Extruder 1 position. There are 2 Extruder motors on this, E0 and E1. I had put it on E1. E1 is the only stepper motor that you cannot test from the control panel. When I tap the extruder, when I'm on the extrude page and I tap the hot end, it will not switch from E0 to E1. That might be a problem in the firmware. I'm going to have to check. But anyway, I had it on E1 and didn't know it. But when I pulled it apart to set those jumpers, I didn't put them back in the exact same location, so the bad one went into X, and that's why X wouldn't work. So that was another hour or so to try and figure out. What else? The LCD. These 2.4-inch LCD touch screens, these are really inexpensive. The stock, this board should run a stock cable and with the stock Marlin way of, you know, with the push button and turning the knob, but the cable that comes with the Geeetech will not plug into this board, and vice versa. So there is a cable that can work with them both. If you have a Geeetech A10M, you can pick up that cable, but honestly that cable costs darn near as much as the color touchscreen does. So there's that. Next, what's next? I think that covered it for things that went wrong. Let's touch on the wiring for a second for the Geeetech. For the Geeetech owners, the extruders, I have changed these wires so many times, I honest to God can't remember how the colors across them were originally set up, but the correct way is blue from the left to the right when they're plugged in. The correct is blue, red, green, and black. That will run your steppers. Leave the stock wiring on the motors alone. Don't change that end at all. Everything else plugged in and worked. Now, on to the fan wires. You remember me, if I didn't mention it, if it doesn't make the final cut, when I had all of these wires figured out coming down from the hot end, I had 3 left over. A yellow, a blue, and a green. And the only thing I hadn't figured out were the 3 fans on there. The two fans are the hot end cooling fans, and they come on and off together, and the part cooling fan. And no way I applied power to those 3 wires could I make any of those fans run. So a little bit of investigation turns out that the hot end fans are pulling their power off the same wire as the positive wire, I should say. They're pulling the positive wire off the same positive wire that runs the heat cartridge. So that green wire is also, with a continuity checker, I found it's the same wire as the positive. So you've got the green wire and the positive to the heater cartridge are the same wire. You hook them up together. So I don't know if you can see it down here, but I have green and red into the same positive terminal, and then the negative terminal for the heat cartridge. That left me the yellow and the blue. Now, the yellow and the blue are the negative to those fans. Here's another thing to touch on with the SKR 1.4 board, and I'm a little disappointed in it. That is, there is 4 fan controllers, if I remember correctly, on this board. 4 fan plugins. Only one of them is controlled by the firmware, and that is fan 0. Fan 2, 3, and 4 are hot all the time and cannot be controlled via firmware. So that's kind of disappointing, but so that means you only need a single wire going into the fan for the negative. That's for the 2 hot end fans. I'm tapping it, it's not in the screen. The 2 hot end fans, the hot end cooling fans, and the part cooling fan. So one negative wire, the yellow wire, goes to the negative to the part cooling fan. It goes into fan 0. The blue wire is the negative that powers the negative side to both of the 2 hot end cooling fans, and I've got it in fan 1, and they are going to run all the time that the printer is on. That's the way the SKR 1.3 board was, and unless you wired it up to the spare, you can wire it up to the spare pins for the Extruder 1 if you only have a single extruder, which I could have done on the Ender 3 and the SKR 1.3, but I always thought I was going to make that a dual extruder printer, and I never did that. But you can do it either way. I don't mind the fans running all the time the printer is on, so as soon as the hot end cools down, I switch the printer off. So that's how that is. I hope I got that made clear to you. It took me quite a while to figure that out. You also will note that I am leaving the end stops out for now. I'm not using the Z anyway because of and I haven't connected the 3D Touch yet either. I still have to do that. I'll add a short video onto the end of this one about that. But I am leaving the end stops out now. I'm not using Z anyway because of the BLTouch. But if you want to use the mechanical end stops on the 2209, you need to cut, you need to cut this pin off. Now, don't go by this video. If you're going to do that, look at the instructions, make sure you got the right pin. I want to use the stall guard, or at least make an attempt at it using the stall guard and the sensorless homing. So for now, I'm leaving that pin in mind because it's easier to go back and cut it out later than it is to go back and put one in that I cut off. So with that being said, let's power it up and let's see if I'm getting all the motion that I want. I've got the camera mounted way high. That way I can zoom out and we can see if these motors and everything are working. So let me tip it up a little bit. And I'll have to move it again for the extruder, but let's power it on and let's look. And when you first power this up, it comes up and it tells you no printer attached. You'll wait for a couple of seconds and the red line across the top that says no printer attached goes away. After a couple of seconds, the bed temp should come in on the thermistor, and then right after that the nozzle temp comes in, and right now they're both 26C. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap menu and movement and move, and now I'm going to move X minus. Whoops, let's switch to 10 millimeters, and we're going to go X Okay, let's try the bed. That's going to be Y minus. Alright, and Y plus. And I hope you can see Z. Let's move X over to get the head under there better. And maybe we can see Z go up and down, so Z minus and Z plus. Alright, now let me set this down and let's see if I, oh, and you know what I need to do? I need to go back. Back, come on, back. This touchscreen doesn't like my gnarled old fingers. And let's go back again. And let's go to extrude. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to heat it up first, don't I? So let's go heat. Oh, and we can check the fan too. You can hear the cooling fans running, but we'll do the extruder because I'm closer to that first. And I'm going to go, let's go preheat, and we're set to both, and I'm going to tap PLA, and that should change me, and it takes a couple seconds to respond. I'm not sure exactly why, but there it went. 200 is my heat, going to be my heat on the nozzle. 60C is going to be my heat on the bed. And we'll go back again. And now I'm going to go to extrude. And of course, if I try to extrude right now, it'll tell me cold extrusion prevented. So I'm not sure exactly what Marlin is on here, other than it probably is a Marlin 2.0. I'm going to have to dig into it to get things the way I want them, and we'll do that in another video. But right now we're going to wait for that to heat up. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and do that fan, even though I've got to kind of reposition the camera for that. So let's do that. Sorry about any crazy swinging of the camera, but I'll just kind of temporarily move the camera so we can see that front fan. I've got everything in the way, don't I? There we go. The two hot end cooling fans, as I said, are powered all the time. But let's go into, I'm trying to do this one-handed, and heat fan on the controller on the touch screen. It really does not like my thumbs. There we go, and I'm going to go to fan, and I'm going to say full on the fan. And there we go. That is a sick sounding little fan. I think I better lube that. But anyway, I'm going to say stop now and turn it off. Okay, I'm going to put the camera back up so we can get a look at the extruder as I run the extruder. Should be 164, we're almost there. Let's see if I can get the extruder in the shot. Can we see the gear there? Let me tip it this way a bit. See if that will cooperate. Nope, it won't. That's okay, we'll figure it out. Alright, has that got me where we can see it? What's my temperature? I am at 180, so I'm going to say unload. Tap unload. I can't tell if I got that or not. Try again. Not working. Oh, that's fan. Ha ha ha, sorry. I got to go back. I got to go to extrude. And we're going to go to extrude there. And now we're going to go unload. And I should get that fan now. Or I should, oh, I'm really tongue-tied. I should get that extruder motor. And there it went. And now I'm going to say load. And there it goes the other way. So I hope that's getting in the camera. Hope you could see that turn. Oh, let's check the let's reposition again slightly so we can see the sorry about all that. So we can see the touch screen. And as you can see, I'm reporting 201 degrees at a 200 degree setting and 60 and 60, although half the zero is cut off the screen. That's probably adjustable. I'm going to reach back and put my hand on the bed. It is hot, and I'm going to burn myself for you guys. Ow, ow. Okay, that was hot. So we're good to go. I am going to go back, and now I am going to go back into heat and fan and tap cool down. Okay, up, missed it. It does not like my fingers. Or maybe it's just being slow. It's just, sometimes this is very slow to respond. Sometimes it takes 2-3 seconds before it updates the screen. Don't know how common that is, but that's what's happening to me. So we've got a lot of settings in here. I haven't even looked in there yet. So I think that's it. Everything seems to be working. I am just going to make one little addition to this video where I get the BLTouch on. I can't even test it, but it's got plugs on it, and I think they are the same plugs that are on the connectors for the board are. But I'm going to go into the instructions, look at that. I'll be right back with that video, and I think that's where we're going to end it for this time. Okay, so bear with me because I am hand holding the camera at the moment. I did have to extend the wires for the 3D Touch. I got very similar colored wires. They're not perfect, but they're very similar colored. And you can see they go down in there. Maybe you can note the color. I don't have any idea how Geeetech had the old board wired, so I just did my best guess, and what I've got is brown, orange, green, and then black and blue. So hopefully that's right. Let's power the thing up. Let's see how it behaves. Well, that's the way it used to behave when I turned it on before. So far so good. So there we go. I am going to end this for now. As you can see, I have a gigantic mess across this work table, and I want to get it cleaned up. I want to get this mounted. I don't think I am going to modify this metal piece to hold this. I think I'm just going to print another one. It is such a simple part to print, and I'll just toss this whole thing in a box with all the rest of the original parts from this printer that I have replaced. So I hope I covered this all for now. I'm going to put links below like I did in the previous one. If you have any questions, please ask. Please like and subscribe and hit notifications and use my affiliate links. That does help me quite a bit. And I'll catch you guys the next time. I'll get everything cleaned up. I'll get this mounted, and we will dig into the firmware and see if this thing works. Bye for now.